Hi everyone, I'm one grumpy individual and welcome to my channel. If you've read my blog, I have talked quite a lot about emetophobia, and if you don't know what it is, just to reiterate, it is the fear of vomit and vomiting. So I've had it since I was about 12, and pretty much I had a bad experience and it made me afraid. And so I thought today I would talk about my first experience of vomiting since having the fear. It was last year and it wasn't as bad as I thought. This is my first video on this YouTube channel. A few years ago I did a Harlem Shake video on a different channel, which I will link, but it's a bit cringy. So last year I went to Canada to, oops, hello doggy. Pupper. Hello, puppy. That's my dog Dilla. So yeah, I went to Canada last year to visit my sister who was on exchange there, and I did a blog post about how I went to New York beforehand and it was really good and everything, but I must have gotten a stomach bug while I was there, and then we went to London, Ontario to visit a friend. We were only there for 2 days, and I got sick the first night we were there. Oh no, second night. It was I'd had a fine day. It was great. I had a great time. We went to Niagara Falls and we did all stuff around there. It was great fun. We were staying at this Airbnb, which was sort of, you could tell it was quite cheap. It was comfortable enough, you know. It wasn't awful, but the bed I had was really uncomfortable, and so my parents were like, well look, if you can't sleep, then we'll switch with you if you want. So that night I woke up in the middle of the night and I felt a bit weird, but I by no means felt nauseous at all. I sort of had a bit of a back pain, so I thought, well, maybe it's the bed, and I just something felt off. So I went and woke mum and dad up and I said, can we switch beds please? And so they're like, oh, okay, yeah. So yeah, we started switching the doonas, the pillows and such. Not quite sure why. Could have just used the ones on the bed. As we were switching stuff, I gagged and I was like, oh. And so I went, Mum, I think I'm gonna be sick. So I got to the bathroom and I was sick. And I remember not feeling any fear whatsoever, although I was paralyzed with fear. There was about 10 seconds, I'd say, where I couldn't move at all. I couldn't think. I was just bent over the toilet like, what is happening? Like, just processing the situation. And it once I sort of processed it, I was okay with it. I accepted it, and you know, I kept going, and I started cleaning up around me, and I was like, oh, you know what, this isn't so bad. And so yeah, I mean, I kept being sick throughout the night. So yeah, I had a shower and everything, and I was sick maybe a couple more times and sort of had to keep going to the toilet during the night. So it was pretty rough. And I slept with mum because I was scared. But yeah, all in all it was fine, and the next day I was just really tired and my stomach ached a bit, but I didn't feel nauseous at all. I felt so much better. And I was just sort of watching a TV to pass the time, and you know, drinking a lot of vitamin water because I didn't want to eat. I kept having to go to the bathroom still, and it was just such a huge drag. Like, I can't even explain it. I had to crawl to and from the bathroom, and I'm not completely sure why, because, you know, I felt fine. I was just kind of a bit tired. But every time coming back, when I was crawling to the couch, I just felt a bit like, ugh, like, you know, a bit off. And then like the fourth time. It was like 4 or 5 in the afternoon, and I threw up once more, which was probably the worst one, I reckon, because there was nothing left inside of me, and so I was gagging and I couldn't breathe because my body just kept trying to heave this stuff out and it just wasn't coming out. So that was the worst part, but it wasn't bad at all, and you know, that was the last time it happened. And yeah, I was fine. And then the next day was pretty nerve-wracking because like, we had a 5-hour flight to Edmonton, and in the morning we went to see a friend who has a couple of rescue horses, and funny enough, he also has a big fear of vomit. I'm not sure if it's quite emetophobia level or not. The main reason we went to London was to see him and his horses, because he was an old mate of my parents. So yeah, we had to do that in the morning because they were like, we're not coming away without seeing those damn horses for you, lad. So I was like, oh, okay, of course I forced myself to do it, but I was exhausted. And I mean, you know, it was lovely to meet them and everything, but I was so tired. And then we went to the airport for our 5-hour flight, and it was terrible. And I was like, what if I'm gonna be sick on the airplane? And I did not want that one bit. That was pretty confronting. So we got to Edmonton, and the Airbnb we were staying at there was a lot nicer. We were staying there for, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks. So we'd sort of gotten a nicer, more expensive place since we were going to be there a while, and you know, it was going to be worth it. I think it was the first night we got there, and then my mum must have caught the bug that I had, and my room was right next to the bathroom, and I could hear her like gagging and coughing and stuff, and I'm like, oh god, no. And mum's my safe person, so it was awful because I wanted to be there for her, but I couldn't, and I knew that I couldn't catch it because I'd already had it and it wasn't that bad. So I don't know why I couldn't just go in and just be like, you okay? But something stopped me, and it was awful, and I hated it, and I couldn't really eat for quite a while until she was better as well. I'm not gonna lie though, we had the exact same pattern, like it hit us both at the same time of the day, it lasted the same amount of time and whatnot. But surprisingly, she was more of the drama queen about it than I was. I was surprisingly, you know, I don't know what the word is. I was surprisingly really together, you know, I was really with it, and I was like, yeah, okay, this has happened, I'm fine, whatever. Got on a 5-hour flight, yeah, no biggie. But mum was just in bed sleeping the whole time, and she just dragged it on, and I'm like, oh, come on mum, pull yourself together. She got sick from a cafe that they went to, I can't remember what it was called, Remedy, and I didn't go because I wasn't feeling well, and so she knew that she had the same stomach bug that I had, so it wasn't the food that caused it, but she didn't want to go back at all, and my sister roasted her really well because we were at an ice hockey game, and the last thing I'd eaten before I got sick was pizza from Pizza Hut, and so I was like, oh, pizza. When I first got sick, back when I was 12, the thing that made me get emetophobia, pizza was like the first thing I had since being sick, and so it was like my safe food and everything like that. And so when I got sick after pizza, I was like, oh crap. And so I had some pizza at the ice hockey, which was like a week after I was sick or something, and the fact that I was able to eat out was a massive achievement for me. And so I was like, after I was like, Mom, look, I had pizza, go me. And she was like, oh yeah, but like the pizza didn't make you sick, did it? And Phoebe was like, well, why don't you go back to Remedy, Mum? And Mum was like, okay, because she didn't want to go back to Remedy. Had to be there. For the rest of the trip, though, I did surprisingly well. I got back to eating well, and, you know, I'd try new foods, and I would eat out of the house, and I was comfortable with going out to places, and I recovered really smoothly. So that was like a week into the trip, so I had another 3 or 4 weeks away, and I was fine. I was fine. I thought, this is it, I'm cured. And then I got back to Adelaide, and we went out for lunch at a cafe that we'd been to a lot, and, you know, I'd always been there sort of apprehensive about whether I should eat or not. And since I'd had such a good few weeks, then I was like, yeah, sure, I'll eat something. And I ended up having a panic attack. It was caused by the emetophobia. And I think it was because I'd been there so many times, and I'd associated the caution with the cafe, and so it sort of just triggered it automatically. But since having a panic attack, I haven't eaten there. I have been fine. I do still have emetophobia, and unfortunately, somehow it's worse than ever. I threw up. I had a really bad stomach bug. It was really bad in terms of vomit. You know, there was a lot of it. I was in the middle of the night. It was in a different country. I got through it, and I was like, it's fine. What am I scared of? But I got back, and it was just there again. It was worse. And it's still worse. It's been, I think, 8, 9, 10 months since it happened, and I still feel terrible. I'm doing all the things that should be helping. I've obviously had my exposure therapy. I regularly go onto a website called Rate My Vomit, where people upload pictures of their vomit or people vomiting, and you rate it on a grossness level of 1 to 10. So it's good for an emetophobe in terms of exposure. I have stomach problems, so I feel nauseous quite a lot. And, you know, I'm thinking positively about the whole vomiting thing, like, oh, it's okay, it's not going to kill me. And, you know, they always say the belief is a key, and that you can't think positively. You know, it's not going to do anything if you don't believe it. I firmly do believe it. I know that it's not that bad. But I'm still very, very scared. I don't really understand what my body's trying to do here. I don't get why this is. Simple as that. I've been getting therapy. I've been reading so much about emetophobia and anxiety and general phobias and stuff, and I know emetophobia back to front. I'm going to see a hypnotherapist in a couple weeks. Nothing seems to be helping. I am in between medications at the moment, and so I am aware that my emotions and my anxiety levels will be quite high. But even, you know, when I was on the medication, it was sort of working. It was still really bad. There's no logic. I have sensed an improvement with other people throwing up, because there are many subcategories within emetophobia. You know, some people are only afraid of other people throwing up. Some people are only afraid of being sick in public. Most people are afraid of sort of everything involved, and, you know, I was, but I've sort of gotten over the fact of other people being ill. I will still feel anxious, but I cope with it, and, you know, I think, yeah, you know, that's fine. It doesn't affect me for very long. I volunteer at a retirement home, and there was this lady, and she had a seizure, and I was one of the first that sort of helped her. Since I'm a volunteer, though, I can't help medically or anything, so I had no idea what to do. So I was just sort of trying to get people to her, and she started vomiting, and so obviously I was like, oh boy. And, you know, it was a confronting situation, because I didn't know if she was going to be okay. She might have died, and she didn't, thankfully. It was just, you know, they said, oh yeah, that happens sometimes. it was a good exposure exercise, and you know, I handled it well, and I left early just because, you know, because it was just generally quite a stressful situation, not so much because of the vomit. But I can look back on it and I feel okay about it. And if somebody says they're not feeling well, that does provoke quite a lot of anxiety, but I could still be around them, I think, until they were sick. And that's only if they sort of had something contagious, I think. I'm actually considering getting into bartending. I'm going to take a course at TAFE in November, and I think that could be good for my emetophobia, because obviously I have to deal with quite a lot of drunk people. So there'll be a lot of vomit involved, but it won't be contagious vomit. And I think that will help quite a bit. So I'm gonna get there eventually, but right now I'm stuck. That's okay. Just gotta get through it. Anyway, thank you for watching. This is my first video, like I said, so please be kind. I'm filming this on my phone. Yeah. I'll link my blog below, and I will hopefully upload videos quite regularly, although I'm quite shy and don't really like to when other people are around, so right now I'm filming when nobody's home. There might be quite big gaps between videos. Alright.